I'm so excited about our Learning from Leaders conversation that we have today. We get the privilege of talking with Danielle and Jordan Hicks. They have been a couple that have been married and serving together at Elevation Church in Charlotte, North Carolina for over 12 years. And as you can imagine, in a fast-growing multi-site context, they've had many roles, from both being associate campus pastors to campus pastors. Jordan is now over multiple campus pastors and helping really set the trajectory of growth for the multi-site arm of Elevation Church. And Danielle has stepped into a new role where she's helping consult with churches specifically in their online experience, but also helping coach communicators. So today is going to be an incredible conversation where we're really going to be exploring the concept of central and campus dynamics and how that affects and challenges what it's like to lead in a multi-site context. But we're going to hear such great wisdom from them, and I can't wait to have them as they join me as we facilitate our campus pastor training. If you want to learn more information about that, check out the website or the link here in the bio, and then enjoy the conversation. I'm so excited to be here with you two. Thank you so much for making some time, for really talking to people about what it means to lead a campus, to lead in that multi-site context. I know we're excited for the campus pastor training coming up here in just a little bit, but I wanted to really bring to the forefront what I've heard oftentimes as the greatest challenge of being a campus pastor, is this dynamic between my campus and Central. Oftentimes when I talk about it, I hear, they're trying to control us. That's what the campus is saying. And then, Central is saying, well, they're not following the play. And there's just this constant tension that I think we have to find out how to manage, because it's always going to exist. We need the centralized resource and vision and direction, but we also need the practical application at the location. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it. When you hear Campus Central, what comes to mind? How would you define that from your guys' context?
Well, I think I might be wrong, but I think Danny is smiling because we uniquely lived this tension for a little while, because I was in a role as a campus pastor and my wife was in a role as a central kind of a central ministry leader, providing some direction and strategy and vision. So I
So you had
think
some
it is one
fights
of
at
those.
home. You guys were actually able to
Yes, we did, actually.
Never.
Now I'm done.
Anyways, so yes,
That was a
definitely
long
is.
pause there.
He's like,
Jordan,
oh.
I just had to exhale. I had to let some things roll off me. Definitely some things to process. It's definitely a valid tension. A lot of times I think Central and campus actually want the same thing. That the route or the avenue to get there sometimes looks different.
Wow.
So sometimes a campus director or a campus pastor has a certain end goal in mind. And let's use a vague ministry term. I don't know if it's growth in small groups or whatever, or growth on volunteer teams. As the campus pastor connected to the local campus, I can see a certain route and avenue for which I think I can take to get there. The central ministry leader wants the exact same thing. They just often see things from a different vantage point or different perspective because they're not sitting in the seat I am. It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's just a matter of different. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think as a campus person, or sometimes as a central person, because I kind of sit in a central role now in my current role too. I think there's an assumption that like the other person doesn't want the same thing. And so sometimes coming to the table to go like, no, we actually want the same thing. We all want to reach people. We all want to see the church grow. We all want to see hell push back. Like this, you are not the enemy. You're an advocate, and let's figure out how to work together so we can get to the same goal, even if the path or the route looks different.
So great.
I don't know
That's
what you would
great.
say, Danielle, or what you would add to that as far as unique tensions or specific things that come to mind.
Yeah, let me ask that.
I mean,
Danielle, what do you see as the most in terms of the tension between a campus pastor and the central team, and how do you navigate that?
I think the misnomer that there's a wrestle for authority, and I think that's incorrect, but that's how often it seems like it's playing out. And just to add context, like Jordan and I were both campus pastors before I became in a central role. And it gave me a really unique perspective because I was always ticked off before that. And I'm kidding, I'm being dramatic, but I felt the tension. Jordan, don't make that face over there. I can't see you. But
I'm sorry, I'm
I
making
felt
zero
that
faces.
tension. I felt the tension though of I don't like being in situations where I do feel controlled or that I am carrying a yoke of responsibility to grow my campus. And yet I am having to fall within a previously dictated structure that is being externalized onto me. Like I wrestle with that. That is part of our life. So, right. If we want to be a part of a multi site or a larger church or organization, then we have to be able to align. I think the greatest tension, though, what you're asking, Philip, is this wrestle, this struggle, as if you gain authority, say on central or campus side, then I lose authority. If you
Mm,
gain, an input, then I lose it. This wrestle. And for me, because I had been a campus pastor, I stepped into the role and people would say, the campus pastors then would often say, but they would name it. They would use the language of, but you're central. And I would always go, bro, I'm everyone. All right. Like, I'm not central. I'm not campus. Like, I felt like, and being also complexity, a campus pastor wife, I'm like, no, I'm all of it. Like, I really felt like I'm
right.
online, I'm campus, I'm central. I was still an online pastor at the time. So
Yeah.
I was legit in every world. And I never saw myself as just representing that one area. And I think it highlights so what the issue is. I know it's not the only issue, but a big aspect is if you gain authority, I lose it. If you speak into what I'm doing, then I lose the ability to
Right.
speak into it or to make decisions. And the truth is, it is certainly not that clear, but that's how it can often feel. And even from the perspective of a central person, there were moments where I felt a bit disrespected because of that power struggle, but that was really not what was happening. It was just this idea that in partnership there were problems sometimes with dynamics, but the truth is the power came when we were able to really partner together. And I feel like I in my role saw a lot of growth in that and a lot of healthy partnership over time, but there was always that tendency on both sides to kind of have that wrestle or
Yeah.
that struggle, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I really like that idea is that understanding the authority is shared. It's not who has it, who
Uh-huh.
doesn't. We have to both share the authority because we want the thing, which is bigger than my
Yep.
thing to grow. We've got to, and I heard this with about
Mhm.
collaboration. We co-labor. We're working
That's
together
right.
to make that happen. It is surprising how
Yeah.
ego oftentimes gets into a lot of different places and can mess a lot of things up.
Oh yeah.
Literally,
And
as Dan, as Danny
go
was
ahead,
talking,
baby.
I felt like there were two things that kind of popped into my mind as far as like sometimes the underlying problems. Sometimes it's pace because what
Mhm.
really is needed in a lot of these situations is a moment to slow down and align and slow down
Yeah.
and come to a table and say, "Hey, I got this email from you. It felt like you were like mandating that we do that. Kind of felt like weirdly communicated. Help me understand because I want the same thing you
Yeah.
want." Da, da, da. But sometimes like ministry is busy. You finish Sunday and you're 6 days away from the next Sunday. Like there is a lot that is, you know, constantly happening within a ministry context. So I think sometimes the pace can prevent alignment. And if the pace is preventing alignment, then what leaders end up defaulting to is pride. And
Yeah.
that's your ego thing, Philip, that I think like sometimes there is a root sin, if you want to call it
Mm,
that, whether it's ego, whether it's pride that gets in the way to say like, no, I'm going to be right. And now it
Yeah.
becomes more about proving my way is right or my philosophy is right versus recognizing that all of ministry is ultimately oriented in serving, in
yeah.
pouring out,
Mhm.
Yeah.
in others.
Yeah.
So the moment I start getting like hung up on this being the way to do it because it's my thing and Philip's wrong, but I'm right, or Danny's wrong and I'm going to show, I've lost. The
Right.
church is
Yeah.
the church is lost. The campus is lost. My team is lost. And that that flows out of me, whether I would like to believe it or not, you know?
Yeah.
I Jordan, I think about it. We have a daughter, her name's Lennon, and she's now 5, so she's absolutely so mature now and has grown out of this nut. But one of her first things she said is, the word mine was so common for her.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's funny how even at 3 or 4, our ego can rule, and this scarcity mindset where we're holding on to that which is ours. And so quickly she would say, this mine, mine. Like, it was funny how fast she learned that word, this. And I know developmentally, I'm no expert, but I guess that's part of, it's part of child development
My
is
my kids
ownership.
never my kids never went through. I don't know what you're talking.
Thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot. I'll put that on my list for
God
my
damn it.
therapist. Okay. But I feel like that sense of ownership, yeah, it's normal for all of us, but we are no toddlers, and we are literally carrying out the gospel to the people of the world. And so I think the standard that we are required to uphold, and I don't say this with judgment. I mean, I've been in those struggles and I felt all the same things probably that someone listening right now is feeling. And I've been frustrated before, but I've also been candid and built bridges. But I think, for us, it's realizing what we're called to is so much greater that we don't have time to mess around with all of these sort of casual disagreements or the internal struggle when no one's speaking out loud, when candor isn't present.
Mm,
And, in the Bible, the verse that says we'd make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. And what I can see break down sometimes, and that's why we all as pastors, no matter what role we're in, have to be really intentional, I think, to lead our teams towards unity. And so to zoom out from ego, zoom out from ownership, from credit, from authority, we're talking about unity. And so
yeah.
biblically, I think the blessing and the Spirit of God cannot be in the projects that we're leading, the vision that we're sharing, if there is disunity. And so I'm not trying to get so heavy so quickly here, but I believe the blessing of God on our ministries in many ways is it's depending on our ability to remain unified, whether it's at campuses or central or within our staff. And so I think it's more than just, oh, we disagreed on this project. There's a spiritual aspect to this for
Yeah.
sure.
Let's keep that because I'm gonna talk to the other side, the dark side, which is
Yeah.
there's 4 locations. Mine's only running 200. I'm set up and
Hmm.
tear down. You're thinking about the one campus that's 2,000 or the other one that's 1,100 or whatever it may be. How do I stay unified? And when I truly do, like, I need somebody other than me to be thinking about the context by which I'm in, or else I sound like I'm the one saying, "But what about mine? Hey, where is mine?
Hmm.
Hey, don't forget about this." Like, how do you reconcile those two thoughts? Because the reality truly is I feel forgotten. I feel understaffed. I feel under resourced. I feel, and so it's like not everything's fair, but how do we stay unified when things aren't necessarily equally distributed?
Yeah. Jordan, you
Okay,
should speak to
Jordan.
that.
Yeah, Jordan. Pick
Should
that
I?
one.
Um, well, one, I think there is it is natural that you would be thinking about a context that serves the most amount of people, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in a 4 location church and you have a campus, let's call it broadcast, let's call it the whatever, that's
Yeah.
running 2 or 3 thousand people, it would be appropriate that there is a certain level of context for groups ministry or volunteer structure that is built for that. If you are a leader leading in a different context, I think it is your responsibility to go ask questions of the central ministry leaders
Yeah.
to go, hey, here's a really great phrase. Help me understand. Help me
Hmm.
understand how I can grow the group's ministry in my context.
Yeah.
Help me understand how to solve some of these volunteer structures when I can't do blank. Help me understand it. And you just approaching things from a neutral standpoint brings the walls down. Asking
Yeah.
questions opens doors.
What I
Approach it
love
with
about that.
curiosity. Sorry, I'll stop there.
No, it's great. I want to double down there because it's like what you're doing too is one saying the resources may not be flowing to me, but my belief is not that I don't have access to resources. My belief is
Hmm.
that I just need to go ask. And guess what? They're most likely not thinking about me because I'm not raising my hand and saying I need anything. So until I say, help me understand, or just help me implement, or help me do that, if you have that unity of faith, a unity of mind and heart,
Yeah.
it's saying, oh, snap, we got to go over here and we've got to shrink it down,
Mhm.
simplify it, give it some level of attention. I noticed that in a lot of places. What was the scripture? You don't have these, you don't ask. And then so it's saying
Yeah.
like, well, don't go in there. I think it's the heart of the assumption is I'm not getting, therefore they
Mm.
must not care.
Yep.
It's actually saying, I don't know, so I should go check.
Yeah.
A, a leader fundamentally has to be an owner, and you sitting in the corner with your hands crossed going, no one's thinking about me, is not leadership and is not ownership.
Right.
You
Mhm.
owning the fact that there is a problem that nobody is thinking about you in your context is great. You need to bring that to the surface. You need to enlighten other people, not in an attacking manner, but in a manner
Yeah.
that goes, man, I love that we get the opportunity to serve multiple churches in multiple contexts. Help me think about this in my context. Help me solve this problem over here.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
um,
Can I
I think
speak
is
can
great.
I speak to that, Jordan? Because I
Yeah.
think even when you said the help me understand, like how to navigate and actually enter into those conversations. Again, this is speaking from someone who's been on both sides, who's been a campus pastor, feeling the tensions of being a campus leader that is, given and shared systems with from Central, and then also from the hat of, okay, I'm also creating vision and strategy that should be consistent church-wide. And I think as a central leader, what I often really valued is what you said is the people that seemed engaged were the ones that I feel like made me want to shift and change and really hear, especially just through, and it didn't have to be perfect. I mean, I'm a pretty direct person and I appreciate candor. And so I didn't need to be pandered to. It's just really honest conversation. What could sometimes happen though is as a central leader, you work really hard to be able to support, and then you don't even hear back. Or you share something and you may not receive any engagement, good or bad, back.
Right.
And then you're left on the other side going, I don't know, like, was this the right direction? Is there frustration, especially if that had been a tendency? And what I valued are the people, yes, that did come frustrated and said, hey, this doesn't work. Because that to me, there was no ego in that for me. I was saying, thank you so I didn't think
Right.
about that or I didn't understand that. But what I noticed is the timing really had a lot to do with it. And so when a system is shared or vision is rolled out or plans or strategy, and you don't get engagement on the front end, but only on the back end. And then it's this is why it didn't work, or it's too late to make a lot of changes. I think that can be difficult for whoever is helping to support the greater campuses. And so I think even that, just having the ability to go quickly, have candor and say, hey, I want to talk about this, may I give input on this? Hey, or investment, hey, I'd love to work on this with you. And I think a lot of times that's that true sense of partnership, to say, I want to speak into this. I would never say, no, I don't want your perspective. I would say, please, please, yes, I would love your input. But what I noticed is there were often few people that had that posture to come get involved in that way.
Yeah.
Jordan, you got something over there. I can
Do it. It's
tell.
brewing.
No, I was just gonna say, I also think there's like there's a threshold for some campuses too, that like you don't actually need to be doing the other things until you hit a certain point.
Mm.
And I
Mm,
don't know how that works in terms of what you have the ability to do or not to do. I'm not saying cut all small groups at your church and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that has been hard at Elevation in recent years is we have different campuses at different sizes. And let's say youth ministry, for example. We started having a really big emphasis on youth ministry about 5 or 6 years ago. But half of our campuses met at schools Sunday only, don't
Right.
have permanent facilities. It's really hard to do a youth ministry when you're in that context. But then all of a sudden, guys start feeling like I got to have a youth director, I got to get a hire, we got to start doing e-groups, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't the right season for it. The right season for you is just growing your campus, and
Right.
growing your location and doing Sunday
Mm.
really, really well. So sometimes the systems or the team that you see at the bigger church, it's great to want that. It's great to be ambitious, but it may not actually work in the context that you're in right now. And the whole thing you may just need to be focused on is just simplifying right now and doing a couple things really well, letting that grow. And then you're going to be at a level where the systems are going to make sense because you're going to be an 800
Mm.
person church. And now it fits a different context.
Yeah, that's so great. And that's kind of the concept, I think, is having Central there as a resource becomes you're equipping me with the tools that I need when I'm in the phase that I need them,
Mm.
versus
Yeah.
saying this is the
Mm.
play by play.
Yeah.
We talk about it internally with our team and with churches we coach to say there's freedom in the framework. We just have to define the framework for which they operate in. Um,
Yeah.
okay, as we near the end of this, I just what is a habit or a practice that they can implement to more align central and campus working dynamics towards that unity, towards that collaboration that we're talking about?
Ooh.
What would you encourage them with?
Ooh, I have one.
Okay.
I
You go.
think, man, it goes a long way feeling like central staff are equally as invested on the campus on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I'm saying this from the perspective of a campus pastor and being a central person, because when I moved over to central, I kept that mindset of I'm there for all the experiences. It's not that I
Yeah.
peace out after the first early one and I go have brunch. I am there and I am present for all
Yeah.
that's happening. And I think that just develops trust, it builds equity. And then when you're working on the project together on Wednesday, they know, nah, it's not that you are detached or ignorant to the challenges, but you're actually invested in what's happening at the campus and the people. I think the other filter is we cannot create systems that are so organizationally elaborate that we disconnect central staff from the people that we are called to serve. And I
Yeah.
think that's where you see things go wrong when we get detached from the people that we are called to pastor. And I've seen central staff that maybe uh, feel like, well, pastoring people isn't my formal role. And that may be true. But I think maintaining that close connection to the people that we're called to. And I know that sounds cute and slightly ambiguous, but that means, man, you got to figure out what that looks like for you and the central staff at your church.
Well, and here's where I
Yeah,
want to interject, because I think what we're going to talk about, how we're going to teach central and campus dynamics at the campus pastor training, actually hits this, to where as
it's
our
good.
campuses grow, so our central team grows, but it grows with people who are actively leading that
Mm,
lane of ministry at the location, is also uh, tapped with some sort of central responsibility. They
yeah.
become, what I keep saying is, you become the linchpin to the effectiveness of our multi-site strategy as a director of kids at Poughkeepsie, but because you're part of the
Yeah.
central kids team for all of Focus Church, whatever, like that's the way that it works. And we'll unpack that
Focus
because
church. I like it.
who knows, maybe, no, I'm just kidding. You heard it here first.
That's why we gathered today.
Unless the other alternative is what I say, the director can become the linchpin, or the campus pastor becomes the choke point,
Mm,
because all ministries have to run to the campus pastor, and the campus pastor has to then go and distribute that information to their whole team.
uh-huh.
And that's where I think a lot of the frustration is. I'd be frustrated too if 6 people told me what to do and then I had to turn around and tell 6 other people how to do it. And that's not my
Hmm.
area of expertise. So we'll unpack a lot of that stuff, but that is so, so true, because you keep that finger on the pulse of what's happening at the location.
Yeah. But what you said,
Uh,
Philip, the tension of being told, I mean, the way you said it's pretty candid and direct and true, of the feeling of, wow, I have all of these ministry leaders. They're all telling me to prioritize the area that they have chosen or were selected to hyper prioritize. And I'm expected to do the same.
Oh,
That is
God. Yeah.
difficult. And if they're not all talking to each other, well, everything can't be important all at once, can it? And so I
Yeah.
think that's the tension point. And I know it doesn't help to tell the tension point because we all probably know it, But the minute we really dissect some of these problems and give names to it, we realize the person is
Right.
not the problem.
Right.
It's our mindset towards some of these things. So I feel like it's so true what you said.
Fire
For sure.
emoji.
The youth, yeah.
Just go ahead.
I won't co-sign because I was just gonna underscore the same thing, but it's
Go
true.
ahead, go ahead.
I think my tip or thing, and I think this works on either side, is just being aware that communication in any type goes a long ways. And I
Mm,
have not always done this perfectly, but if a central director resources you as the campus pastor with your game plan for eGroups Connect weekend or your youth initiative coming up, hitting reply on the email and just going, "Thank you so much, Philip."
Yes. Got it. On
That
it.
yeah.
that honestly goes a long way. And it's simple and it sounds stupid, but we don't do it sometimes. So I think
Mhm.
even starting there with just simple communication tips, or even figuring out that I know churches have various sizes, size of departments, number of ministry leads, all that. But even figuring out some type of meeting schedule where you as the campus pastor can get across the table from a ministry director or a ministry's
Yep.
team
Yep.
Yep.
monthly, quarterly, to just go, hey, what are you guys dreaming about?
How's it
What are you
going?
thinking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Here's what I'm pressed about right now, and figuring out some type of way where you can have consistent communication and you're building a bridge and being proactive. I
Yeah.
think those things go a long way.
We haven't hit that in that we've talked about all the practical aspects, communication, how we actually think about it, our mindset. But just having a relationship with those people, I think, is really important too, where, yeah, they're what's happening with their kids. And I know we're all not going to be BFFs. I wasn't best friends with all the people that I collaborated alongside, but
Sure.
the more I invested in the relationship, the more stake we had in resolving conflict and not burying it. And there's probably people that are listening to this right now. And I pray that maybe the conviction of the Holy Spirit has spoken to you and said, you need to go sit down with that other person from that area and you need to talk about what you've been feeling and you need to resolve something. You need to go to lunch and ask them, how are they doing? Because, right, we're all pastors and ministry leaders here. We know there's typically more to it. And so I think we can't discount the value of just being in proximity in life. Haste, Jordan, as you mentioned, is the absolute enemy to that. But if we can create space and
Yeah.
say, hey, what's going on in your world? What tensions are you facing? Hey, when have you been frustrated with me? I think all of those they just go a long way in us being better leaders of people and leaders of each other and actually producing candor. I think it's important.
So cool. Guys, thank you so much for the time. I know there's such wisdom and nuggets here. It's not just coming from theory either, but incredible practice. Thank you guys for investing so much into the local church for so long. I can't wait to learn from you
Mm.
guys. It's going to be a fun time together at Campus Pastor Training. So if you're here, you made it to the end, we want to invite you. Come on out, check out the website, and can't wait to see you. Thanks so much, guys.